Hey everybody, so this is the answer key to the multiple choice questions that I posted that acts as a review for Unit 2 and 3, covering some of the big ideas. And what I'm going to do is just walk through kind of how to answer these questions. And you can also find answers to these questions on Quizlets and other Googleable things, but this is just sort of my take on the question. So the first one is we get Juan de Sepulveda, and there's also a mention of Bartolome de las Casas here. So this is pertaining to 1522. This is pertaining to the Spanish colonial period. So this is the above excerpts support which of the following generalizations, and I'm just going to go through like how I would think about answering these questions. After in Latin American populations interacted economically, most Europeans were compassionate. No, not compassionate. That's not going to be a strong answer there. There was some degree of debate by Spanish explorers how to treat natives. Yeah, I'm going to choose this one. The appeal of natural rights and natural law was succeeded in abolishing slavery. No, no, no. The European belief in white superiority was used to justify the doctrine of natural rights. No, not really. Although I'm sure we have some Europeans who believe in white superiority who also support the idea of natural rights. That's not what this excerpt is really pointing to here. The debate. This is Juan de Sepulveda versus Bartolome de las Casas. Bartolome de las Casas is going to advocate for the people, the indigenous people of North America, and Juan de Sepulveda is not. So there's that. So which of the following statements about Spanish conquest of the Americas is most accurate? We have the African slavery was a direct result of Spanish settlements in Florida. This is way too specific. Florida, I don't. It's not about Florida. Early native civilizations in Mexico introduced Spanish explorers to cattle ranching and wheat. There was no cattle in North America or Mexico. There was no wheat in Mexico before the Spanish came, so that's out. Christopher Columbus was not the first European. I think this is the best answer only because we have not the first European to explore North America. He was the first one to land there, but I don't know about exploring North America. I don't think he even got to North American territory. So I'm going to circle C. Due to racial prejudice, Spanish explorers shunned intermarriage. No, there was a whole caste system where, uh, there's a ranking system where the whiter you were, the closer you were to the top, and there was in the middle there were these mestizos, there was these mixed races. So that's not it. Which of the following presidents most involved in Latin American politics? You might not know this now because we haven't gone to this content, but it was Theodore Roosevelt. He was the one who advocated for getting more involved in Latin American and Caribbean countries in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Maize cultivation among the native peoples of Mexico is most analogous to which of the following? Buffalo hunting, that's hunting. Wolf domestication among the Algonquins. No, that's you're taking something wild and you're making it, domesticated, making it like a pet. No. Mixed agriculture among the Iroquois. Yeah, this is the one that makes the most sense because maize cultivation is this idea of permanent crops that you're going to use for resources. Seal hunting, no. So this is revolving around agriculture. Okay, Roger Williams, 1652. So if we go into the content here, it talks about the Puritans believed that freedom to practice religion should be extended to Puritans only. They were very exclusive about their religious beliefs, especially among other Christians. Consistent with the exit above, Roger Williams was banished from Massachusetts Bay for advocating. So, in the passage above, they're talking about the unity between the church and state. Roger Williams is going to argue for the opposite, that there should be a separation of church and state. He was kicked out for that. The First Great Awakening can be seen as a direct result to which of the following. You might think it's Puritanism because they're talking about a Puritan up there, but it's actually in a response to the Enlightenment. Preachers are getting concerned that there's too much discussion of rationality and they're losing faith, so we need to reassert their faith. Puritan immigration from England came to a near halt because during that period, this one might be a little bit difficult because it talks about what's going on over in England at this time. And really, it's because the Puritans controlled the English government. They were able to get control, so there really wasn't a need to send people over for quote unquote religious freedom because had they had a government that supported them over in England. Which of the following documents most encourage church membership? The best answer here is going to be the Halfway Covenant. The fundamental orders of Connecticut is connected to Roger Williams, so that's going to be more about separation of church and state. The Mayflower Compact is more of a political document, although it does reference God. The Halfway Covenant is more attuned to about religious conversion, which extends to political rights. So I would Google that, get a little bit more familiar with that if you're. Where's my scanned finger? Journals of Continental Congress, 1777. So we're in the middle of the war. They're talking about the Articles of Confederation. Okay. Major weakness. Too powerful chief executive. No, no. Did not include a mechanism for their amendment. No, it did. It's just everyone had to vote for it. Made it too difficult for the government to raise money. Yes, it was very difficult to force the states to pay. Deny the federal government the power to mediate. They had that. It was incredibly weak. So it was a weakness, but not the major weakness. The most notable achievement, creating a strong executive. No, no. The empowerment of Congress to regulate commerce. No, it did not do that. It failed horribly, as we'll learn about in AMSCO 6. The empowerment of Congress to collect taxes. No, we know that from the previous question. The provision for land sales. Yeah, we were able to get territory out west and out in the northwest, I should say. The Sugar Act, 1764. So we're jumping back right after the French and Indian War. Let's see. The Sugar Act represents a major shift in British policies in that time. For the first time, British attempted to control. No, they had the Navigation Acts. Offered the colonists the opportunity to address Parliament with grievances. Um, no, this is the opposite. They're not allowing the colonists to redress their grievances. Required the colonists to import exclusively. No, that's the Navigation Acts. Levied taxes aimed at raising revenue. Yes, raising revenue. In harmony with the settlements not expressed in the excerpt, which of the following does not represent the views of the minister, not represent the views. He felt the crown needed to control trade. Yes, he did. He felt the crown needed to control trade and raiders. Wait, no, does not represent the views. Okay, ooh, that's confusing. He felt that colonists should help pay for the debt. He would have believed that. He felt that Parliament had the right to increase tax dollars. Yeah, he would have believed that. He wanted to reward the colonists through extension. No, no. His solitary neglect is ignoring the colonists and not imposing. He would have not agreed with D. The goals represented in the excerpt have most in common which of the following? Antitrust reforms. That's about like breaking up big companies. No, in in the industrialization period. Free trade policies. No, this isn't about free trade. This is about taxation. Increasing federal income rates after World War One. Yeah, raising money after a war. Decreasing federal income. No, we're increasing rates after a war. So, oh yeah, he's back, Mr. Payne. Common sense. Okay, so by the way, for most of these, I did not read most of the text. There are only a couple that I went backwards just to see what just to confirm what they were talking about. So, based on the name, based on the date, you should get a good clue about where to go. Let's see. Which of the following is the most harmonious agreement with the settlement expressed? Government is unnecessary since humanity is capable of guiding itself with personal conscience. No, he wouldn't have said that. Government's good so long as government is good. A limited republican government is preferable to a monarchy. Absolutely. Yes. I'll explain. Government is necessary to check against the corrupting influence of society. This is saying that like society's bad and we need a government to prevent it from being bad. No, that's an argument for stronger government. Security is the only justification for government. No, like there are other justifications for it, but so when he says Republican, he really means representative government, not Republican like what we have, like the Republican Party now. It's different. The Republican means representative. Which of the following miseries alluded to above were most condemned by anti federalists? The post revolutionary era. Organized response to Bacon's rebellion. This is the pre-revolution era. No, federal response to Shays' rebellion. So this one is this one's interesting because we have the call for federal response to Shays' rebellion. There was no federal response to Shays' rebellion. That's the problem. They needed to. There was they had to call in troops from all over the place just to try and get to quell the rebellion. And it was mainly agreed that, oh yeah, okay, there's kind of a problem in specifically in Massachusetts, but federal response to the Whiskey Rebellion, yeah, this one would have been the strongest answer because this is where we have the federal government imposing a tax, the whiskey tax, and then there being a rebellion, and so there we need there's a concern of federal power, federal assertion of power. Uh, that Anti-Federalists would not be happy about. Pontiac's Rebellion, no, that's about Native Americans out in the West, and it was pre-Revolution, so it's out. 1763. My finger again. All right, here we go. Jamestown. Okay, the burning of Jamestown, 1776. I'm trying to draw a piece of bacon. This is referring to Bacon's rebellion, right? 1776. Well, it's not drawn very well. So this is Bacon's rebellion that it's referring to. And then this one's talking about servants and that there was, oh, this is about punishing a servant. So let's see what the excerpt is about. English colonists sought to control the native populations through missions and religious. No, no, no. That's the Spanish. Trade alliances with American Indians promoted economic health. No, no, no. We all know it's tobacco. A shortage of indentured service led to the. So this is true, but that's shortage. Shortage isn't quite the word I want to use. The Chesapeake colonies relied on labor-intensive agriculture, so that both white, yes. So in this excerpt up here, 1640. This is before Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion acts as that turning point between um, the inflection point where they start to bring in more enslaved Africans versus indentured servants. So, this before this time period, we do have a mixture of white and black labor. So there's that one. Why were the confrontations such as those in the excerpt rare in New England colonies? Why were there no? Why didn't we not have these rebellions and these issues up there? New England populations were largely homogeneous. Yeah, there really wasn't a big African population, although there were some there. They were largely homogeneous with subsistence farming rather than cash crops. Subsistence means that they're growing crops just for themselves. Which of the following protests is most similar to the burning of Jamestown? So I was looking up this one, and because I got a little bit confused about it, they said it was C because of the violence from Nat Turner's rebellion that you're going to learn about in Unit 4. There was no violence here. There was no violence here. And while there was violence here, It was in the protest of a tax, so that's not going to work. Okay, so is the savages let loose or the cruel fate of the loyalists? Okay, so is this a peace when loyalists must plead? It is a bloody piece of work indeed. Hmm. Okay, so this is meant to, like, this cartoon is, it's got Native Americans here, or it's depicting Native Americans, but this is supposed to be, funny enough, this is supposed to be depicting Americans, colonists. And so the American colonists, this artist has depicted colonists as savages because they're acting cruelly towards their loyalist people. The cartoon above, which of the following conclusions? Uh, Indians sought revenge. This actually isn't about Native Americans. French withdrawal after 7 years of conflicts between Indians. Nope. During the Revolutionary War, American settlement towards loyal to Britain became increasingly hostile. Yes. The Seven Years' War is also popularly labeled the French and Indian War. Okay, the French fought various Indian tribes. No. The French were aided throughout the war by various Indian tribes. Yes. Most Indian tribes sided with the British. No. Many French settlers, including the maritime, intermarried with native peoples, thus were allied against. Not this intermarried piece is wrong. Which of the following best describes the causal link between the Seven Years' War and the Revolutionary War? Britain's defeat led to, no, not defeat. Emboldened by their victories, colonial elites challenged the crown, pushing for independence. For the working class populace, no. Britain's massive debt after 7 Years' War resulted in a push for greater control. Yes. Massive debt. Okay. Okay, so this resets a bit, I think, right? Yeah, this is a new set of questions. Richard Hofstadter. From the large body of poor drifters, many of them diseased, feckless, or given a crime, became a great part of the labor supply, which the rich sugar islands in the American mainland. So this you're talking about the English poor that are arriving to the colonists. So people describe in the quote were most likely they're not going to be slaves because they're covered from England. Indentured servants, right? These are the ones who signed a contract to get over to the American colonies. They work off their that cost of their trip and all of that, and they become free eventually. The need for labor in the mainland was a direct result of, well, decline of slavery. No, there was an incline. There's increase in slavery. Cotton gin wasn't invented yet. Manufacturing, not yet. The best answer is cultivation of tobacco. People described in the quote above most likely immigrated to the Chesapeake, where you had the tobacco farms. Okay, how many more? This is, all right, two more. Sylvia Frey, historian. Oh, yeah. So after I read this, I thought this was really interesting because it talks about why there was a push for what was the motivation for the South during the Revolutionary War. Oftentimes, I think one group was highlighting this. Oftentimes, we talked about how, like, everything's happening in Boston, 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 Boston. So, like, you have the Boston Tea Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, the Coercive Acts. We have all this stuff happening in Boston, and we have the Sons of Liberty, Boston, and so that's in the North. And what's the pull for the South? So, if you reread this, you get a good sense of a motivation, not the motivation, but a motivation for Southern slave owners. Let's take a look. Which of the following primary sources was most likely to support? So if you read this, you'd examine it and you'd say, okay, it talks about because there's this fear of uprisings amongst the enslaved population. The so why is there a fear of uprisings? Well, because the British would try to get the the enslaved people to rise up against the southern slave owners so that they can create this disorder in the South, and then weaken the independence efforts. So the response was by the Southerners to double down on independence, and which meant to reassert their control over enslaved people. So what would best support it? Well, you'd need number of slave uprisings. Why? Because if there's this fear of slave uprisings, then, or if there's a number of them that are that you're concerned about, right? It's going to fuel the idea that this is a potential problem for slave owners in the future. So the answer is B. Which of the following most contributed to the increased use of slave labor during the century? Tobacco and cotton. Okay. Okay, last one. This is another Sugar Act document. This might be just repetitious, but let's see. Sugar Act was passed for the following reasons: not for manufacturers, to raise money, yes. Economic system establish is wrong. Promote peace, no. Establishes the mercantilism was established in the 1600s. One eventual effect of the Sugar Act was it never enforced due to wide smuggling. Um, no. Contributed towards colonial unrest? Yes. Unrest. Sugar Act. Which historical event prompted the need for the Sugar Act? Yes, 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 yes. We should know that by now. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. And again, check and see what you got right or got wrong. And this will be good review for the multiple choice that's happening this week. Good luck.